Another option is Mexican petunia, or also another name for it is Ruellia. And there are several varieties of that. One is an upright standard that gets to about 2 feet tall, sometimes maybe even up to 3 feet tall, and it's pretty tall. There's a dwarf variety that gets a foot or less, and it's really good. It's kind of a mounding, clumping plant that looks almost like grass at the base on the foliage, and then it has really cool blooms. You can get them in pink, purple. I think there's possibly even like a blue variety. There's a white variety. They all do really good. So, you know, on this one, I would probably do the Ruellia over the Lantana if it was me, just because they seem to do a little bit better. So just anywhere you have some open space, like where this, you know, boulder is that we're going to throw away, you know, you might be able to put, you know, 2 or 3 or 4, you know, in there. These things kind of spread on their own, and so it's not as big of a deal on how many you actually plant in there, because they will kind of multiply and spread. If you do have kind of equal spacing of these Ruellia through this bed, if you can kind of do it every 3 feet or every 5 feet, or, you know, even every foot, and kind of put these things in here for some type of a pattern, you know, that would be good. But if not, just any open pocket that you have in the bed, if you can find some type of a pocket to put, you know, 3 or 4 of these things in, then I would definitely try to do that. And this side, I think that's it. We're good on this side. And now we're going to move to the right side of the front porch. It's got similar features as the left side. I think that there's some knockout roses or something in here in the computer picture that I have. You can kind of see it a little bit better. But I would go in here, get rid of these rocks, throw those away, give them to your mom or your mother-in-law or somebody, and plant you 3 hydrangea to match the other side, equally spaced in here. They have different varieties, different sizes. Somewhere around 2.5 to 3 feet spacing is usually pretty close for hydrangeas. And I think that you could do some more of these Mexican petunia or Ruellia, some type of good perennial flower mixed in here, just wherever you can fit these in. One thing to remember too on perennials are nice because they come back every year, but they limit the opportunity for annual flowers. So if you're wanting some annual flowers, then, you know, in an area right here by the front porch, this is kind of the most common area that you would do that. You might not want to put any of the perennials in there because you want to save some space for annuals. A lot of our properties and a lot of things that we do, we like to have some perennials in the very back of the annual bed, and then we'll leave some space in the front for annuals. We'll put the perennials in the back. So they'll come back on their own, and then we'll have some room here for spring, summer, fall annuals, and then be able to do your fall, you know, winter through spring pansies and kale and cabbage and stuff like that. And this, let's see here. I think there's another gutter downspout right here. So you're probably going to want to put some more river rock on this side if it's floating that mulch out. Next thing on here is it looks like there is steel edging that runs around this bed right here. I personally don't really like steel edging at all. I prefer a concrete curb. We usually do it anywhere from 6 inches to 12 inches. Depends on how big the house is, how big the flower bed is. If the house, you know, is really big and the bed's really big, then I'll use a 12-inch curb. If it's not so big, then I'll go all the way down to about a 6-inch. On this one, This house is pretty big, but the bed is fairly small. So I would probably do this as somewhere between 6 inches and 8 inches on the size of the concrete curb. And if you could find a concrete guy to go and put that in for you, I think that would help a lot. It would keep this Bermuda grass from going in your flower beds. You want this thing to be up above the grade, up above the sidewalk and all, so that it'll help hold your mulch in and give you a good spot to run an edger and weed eater whenever you're doing all your maintenance. And I would recommend this curb to be you want it to be at or above the finished cutting height of your grass. So when you get done cutting your grass, you want this curb to be at the same height as your grass or a little higher. So Bermuda, regular common Bermuda, mowing it with like a rotary mower or a riding lawnmower is going to be somewhere right around 2 inches. We use reel mowers and cut them really low like golf courses sometimes, and that's closer to 1 inch. So just depending on what kind of grass you have and what kind of mower you're using, that's how I would kind of figure out the height of this edging. I would make it somewhere between, probably between 2.5 and 3 inches is what I would want this to be. If you have steel edging and you keep the steel edging, one thing you can do if the edging is put in too low, like this one looks like it is, and like most houses, they put it in flush with the concrete, and that's too low, and the Bermuda goes into your bed real easy, and your mulch comes out, and you can't even see the edging at all, and it just is not a good separation between your bed and your yard. Some people like it to be a really small, tiny separation that you can't really see. Well, if you have fescue grass that doesn't spread and doesn't run, you can get away with that a little bit easier. But with Bermuda grass, like they have here, it will go into that bed really easily. The last thing I want to talk about on this steel edging is if you want to raise your steel edging up, if it's too low, which a lot of times contractors put it in too low, get you some shovels, shove it into the ground underneath this and pry up on it. Sometimes you might have to get 2 shovels with 2 people and just slowly work your way all the way around here, kind of raising it up and then kind of packing the ground back around it. So when you raise this up, you're going to have a sharp 90-degree point corner right here where the steel edging is above the concrete. One of the reasons why people put it in way too low is because they don't want that right there because it looks terrible and the customers will complain about it and it's kind of a safety hazard. So that's one of the reasons why they put it in way too low. So what we do is we get a hand grinder and we grind that down to flush and level with the top of the concrete, and then we just angle it up to flush with the top of the edging, getting rid of that point. Grind it down, smooth it all up, make sure there's no sharp edges on there or anything. Transition that thing from the concrete to up, above the sidewalk. And I mean, really, I think that's about it. Some people, ask about mulch or rock or different things to put, in flower beds to cut down on weeds and moisture and help with different things. A lot of it is just kind of for looks, helps keep weeds out and stuff. I like mulch. I like cypress mulch the best, that doesn't have any dye or color in it. And the reason why is that it's really consistent and you can add to it through the year and even the next year, and you don't ever really have to strip it all out and throw it all away and start over. When you have mulch that has red dye or black dye or even brown dye, it starts off really dark and really pretty. And just over a few months' time, it fades a lot. When the sprinklers water on it and it rains, it fades. It doesn't look nearly as good. When you try to go in the next spring and try to freshen up your beds, you can't really buy brand new mulch and put it in there with all the existing mulch because it looks totally different and it looks dirty and trashy and it just doesn't look very good. So you end up having to strip it all out 100% and start over. If you're willing to do that every season or every year, springtime, come in and do all brand new mulch, then that's fine. But I just personally like to be able to use the cypress because I don't ever have to strip it all the way out. And I can just constantly kind of add to it as it blows away and washes away and floats away. I don't know. There's always questions about weed mat and drip line and bubblers and all kinds of different things. But for this, I don't know if there is weed mat in there or not already, but I'll save that for another day. And this is it. Good luck.